evening and welcome to Massey United Insurance's Line and Length. And tonight on the show we have a very special one. We're talking about the Task Force. So all of you watching on Digicel Sportsmax and Scene TV in North America, two attorneys are in the house with me. First of all, Ralph Thorne, he represents the West Indies players who were on tour of India, and Philip Nichols, an attorney at law who is the former secretary of the Barbados Cricket Association and himself a cricket lawyer, if so to speak. Gentlemen, good evening and welcome.
Good evening, Andrew. Thank you very much. Good evening, Philip.
Good evening, Ralph.
And Ralph Thorne, QC, as we like to say. Ralph, you represented the players and you've been very strident and vocal in your comments about the recommendations of the task force. You want to take us through your view on the task force?
I like the description, vocal and strident. I've been vocal and strident only because I am doing it out of a professional obligation. It's not a personal crusade. In other words, I'm being paid to do what I'm doing, but I'm doing it honestly and honorably. My view on the task force is that it probably was a necessary thing. And as I said to the newspaper, we all expected to have something of a judicial inquiry as opposed to this very short exercise in which one or two people or three were interviewed and then a report was hastened to the WICB. We expected something more involved. If you're going to be coming to a decision that affects people's financial interests or career interests, then you need to have an exercise that's properly conducted. I thought it was a little hasty, and this is not a criticism of the task force, because the two that I know personally are the most upstanding gentlemen that you could ever find. That's Sir Richard Cheltenham and Sir Wes Hall. But I blame the WICB for the manner in which the task force was functioning, and the fact that they did not allow this work to be more involved. I think the blame must lie with the WICB.
Before we get to Philip, once again, Ralph, you seem to be hammering the West Indies Cricket Board. Some people are suggesting throughout the Caribbean that the view seems to be a little one-sided, but there's a lot of support for WICB on the whole issue of the players coming back from India.
I'm not hammering the WICB. I'm speaking fundamental truths, and I'm speaking truth to power. The party that holds power here is WICB. And too many people feel that might must always be right. Sometimes might is very wrong. In fact, might is often wrong. And if the WICB is wrong, they need to be told that they're wrong.
Okay. Well, thank you, Ralph. Philip, you wrote a 4-part series in the Nation newspaper about the incident, the coming back from India, and you also mentioned some recommendations that you would have wanted put in place, and lo and behold, the task force has come up with some somewhat similar recommendations. Your thoughts on the report from the task force?
Good evening, Andrew, viewers. As you indicated, I had at the time penned a series of articles in which basically I said the same thing as the task force without going the route. I think the task force reached the only logical conclusion it could have reached, that in all the circumstances, all three parties, namely WIPA, the West Indies players and the West Indies Cricket Board, had to share some blame. I don't know that it will serve any purpose as trying to ascribe the majority of blame to any one of the parties. I understand Ralph's predicament. Or if not predicament, that he has a mandate to represent his clients fearlessly. But as I indicated at the time, I was aghast that the West Indian players had left India, abandoned the tour, as if it was a fat match playing in some
at the savannah.
And the chicken and the rum hadn't turned up. So basically,
but Philip, it could be argued that the contract hadn't turned up, right, Ralph?
Well,
yes, that's
very true. But the fact
WICB
is,
was treated as a
no,
pet match.
very. The fact is, and the West Indies, this is where the West Indies Cricket Board will always get a hammer for. And I have been, even though some people say that I was on the BCA board for many years, I have been hammering the West Indies Cricket Board for many years on contractual issues dating back to the Vast Madras issue. The West Indies Cricket Board have to take blame that over and over they have been allowing teams to leave these shores without contracts. And this dispute arose out of the fact that the guys in India felt that terms were being forced down their throats that they had not agreed to. I think if you look at what the task force is saying, the task force is implying that feeling, whether or not the extent of the damage that they saw to their remuneration was correct. That feeling was there. That feeling was genuine. But they felt that perhaps the ultimate result that went on was too drastic.
Well, and I'll stop you right there, Philip. The task force says the players' contracts must be given at least, I think it is, Ralph, 3 weeks, must be given to the players at least 3 weeks before a tour. The players must return them at latest 1 week before the tour. Failure to return a signed contract will disqualify the player from selection on the team. Do you accept this recommendation?
Yes, in fact, as Philip said just now, you didn't need a task force to come to that conclusion. You didn't.
All right, let's move to the second recommendation. A new collective bargaining agreement should contain a provision which stipulates that before the withdrawal of labor or any industrial action, WIPA and the players should give a minimum period of notice. Example, 14 days to WICB. This would obviate any circumstance as occurred in India. Breach of such a condition would be a breach of contract.
Again, Philip and I are not going to object to that. Again, the answer is the same, Andrew. You did not need a task force to make these obvious recommendations.
Philip, is it correct to say, and we've had a few reports, P.J. Patterson report, the Calvin Wilkin report. So when someone suggests, not perhaps disingenuously, that WICB should shoulder a serious proportion of the blame, they're perhaps not incorrect.
Well, Andrew, as I've said, if you look at the WICB structure, it is really an unworkable structure now.
Unworkable?
Unworkable. I mean, you have a board of 18 people. All of us here have sat in board meetings of one kind or the other. I don't know how a board of 18 people can ever reach or ever discuss something. You will find
come to a conclusion.
You'll find that 2 and 3 people hog the limelight. That is of necessity. But I was interested in Ralph's response just now with respect to the recommendation that the players give 14 days notice. Because I think Ralph was of the view, I don't know if I quoted him correctly,
please don't misquote
the players are not employees.
Oh, they're definitely not employees.
So
I mean, that's almost trite law at this point.
So what notice they're giving?
Well, look, independent contractors and organizations, companies are free to...
If I'm an independent contractor, I go home when I feel like...
No, but you still want some sense of order and organization.
But as an independent contractor, you do have a responsibility, though.
Yeah,
once you have signed a contract of some type, therein lies your responsibility.
Yes, they're mutual obligations.
Right. Define,
you don't have to be an employee to have an obligation.
Right. Define for me, Ralph, the difference between an employee and an independent contractor. As
an employee and an independent contractor.
As you see,
well, you're putting Philip and I now into our law books.
Well, go back a few years.
An employee.
No, we can't. Line on line can't. Massive United Insurance
it has to do with his relationship to the organization. Okay. All right. An employee's relationship with the organization, that organization exercises a greater degree of control over him. In other words, he has to report to work every day, for example. Well, 5 days a week.
Yeah.
The employer must pay his national insurance. He, on the other hand, he has the right to demand holiday under the Holidays with Pay Act. So what I'm describing with an employee is a whole organization which implies that the employer, that the firm, the company, has a greater degree of control over him, let us say for 40 hours a week. And the situation with an independent contractor is different. That independent contractor sells a specific service on terms that are far different from a 5-day week, on terms that do not involve the payment of national insurance, on terms that do not involve his right to receive holiday 3 out of every 3 weeks, it is, Philip? 3 or 4 weeks out of every year. So it has to do with an organization, it has to do with control. So the independent contractor is not subject to the same degree as factual and legal control as is the employee.
Your thoughts, Philip?
I understand where Ralph is coming from in this perspective, but I share a different view. The view is this, that since the historical perspective of what went on, you remember when everyone used to say that the West Indies Cricket Board used to treat the players as servants, it was a master-servant relationship, and it has evolved over the years. And we now have the situation where all the players, certainly ones, well, regionally now, are retained under contracts. I think that
Under
there are certain,
what kind of contract?
there are certain, well, I haven't seen one, I wouldn't like to comment on. There's certain,
Philip, what we have to tell Andrew, I'm sorry to interrupt you, what we have to say to Andrew is that the basic difference is that an employee has a contract of service.
Yes.
And an independent for services.
Gentlemen, we're gonna hold it right there for a moment. It's so good to have both Ralph Thorne and Philip Nichols in the studio for Massey United Insurance's Line of Life, but we're going to take a short break and both gentlemen will be back.
Across the Caribbean, more people are placing their trust in Massey United Insurance for the protection of the things that are important to them, their homes, businesses, and their prized possessions. That's because Massey United Insurance offers excellent general insurance coverage to help you manage whatever life sends your way. Our cadre of well-reputed agencies and trained insurance professionals are always ready to provide you with sound advice and prompt service. Choose the security and sound strength that is Massey United Insurance.
I live cool, I live fresh, I live life without the stress. Every day I feel my best, I live cool with Lima Call. Feel the energy, feel the breeze, I feel like doing as I please. Relaxation comes with these, I live cool with Lima Call.
Live cool with Limacol and feel the freshness of a breeze in a bottle. Limacol is trusted the world over and gives that easy, breezy Caribbean feel to all.
Every day I feel my best, I live cool with Lima Call.
And welcome back to Massey United Insurance's Line of Life, and we're having a bumper show tonight. Ralph Thorne, QC, and Philip Nichols on the left and on the right, as they would say. Gentlemen, we were talking about the concept of independent contractors or contracts for service. Philip, you wanted to make a significant point.
Andrew, but I don't think we have enough time to delve into the legal niceties of this. Just to say that the relationship between the parties does suggest that there are indicia that people would make either argument. The difficulty what I find with Ralph's concept is that whereas akin, let's say, to pilots who work for a regional airline, their skill and whatnot, they are still considered as belonging to part of the organization. The West Indies have over the years developed various packages. I mean, they're the equivalent of pension packages and whatnot that the players now participate in, the Provident Fund, that the players now participate in because of their service for all the years. And it is not a question that the players can just decide where they're going to go and play without reference to the West Indies Cricket Board. For instance, the NOC that the ICC require whenever you go to
Extra regional to international tournament.
T20 must come from the West Indies Cricket Board, except if you now have retired or
are no longer on the contract.
No longer on the contract. So
I'm surprised that Philip is finding it possible to defend a view that I assume is Mr. Michael Gordon's, that a player is now an employee. Look, the basic legal definition that says an employee has a contract of service implies that there's some continuity. The relationship is continuous from day to day, from year to year, until that relationship comes to an end. A contract for services, which is an independent contractor situation, implies that at specific periods you are selling services to the organization. So it is not a continuous relationship, and I don't know any other employee situation in which the employee goes off and plays in essence for the competitor. He goes off to Ramslam, he goes off to Big Bash, he goes home sometimes. I don't know what employee has that luxury of existence. It is a luxury of existence that makes him not an employee. And Philip, quite frankly, I did not think the issue.
But gentlemen, we're gonna freeze on that one because I think what we need to do is we need to look forward. And I want to ask, based on what has happened over the last month, Ralph, you're not happy with the task force and the way it was organized. But based on what has happened, we have now had a report.
Yes.
Where are we now? Where are we in the next 3 months?
Look, I once appeared at a BCA hearing. I think it was St. Catherine and UE. I appeared for St. Catherine. And the person who ran that inquiry ran it according to the rules. It was exceptionally well run. He came there, he ensured that all the parties had their right to legal advice. And I'm not saying this because the outcome favored St. Catherine at the time, but I think it was run by Mr. Philip Nichols, and he was the judicial officer.
And he was
then.
spot on.
Spot on. This task force has applied different standards from those that my good friend Mr. Nichols applied. Where are we now? That report, to my mind, is of no legal effect because a fundamental right to representation was deprived these players. Philip would not have done that. Philip did not do that when I appeared before him. So I have described that report elsewhere as an academic treatise, as between the task force and the WICB, and I am insisting that nothing that springs from that report, no verdicts or no judgments, can have any effect on the cricketer going forward, to use your term.
All right, Philip.
Ralph, I hear what Ralph is saying. He's representing his club, but Ralph just sat down there and said he agrees with the 3-week term.
But the parties can
They can't come to that agreement without the task force.
Yes, of course, without the task force.
I thought that the task force was not set down there to find or to make binding recommendations as to going forward or what. They were trying to see why did these circumstances.
All right.
All right.
In other words, Philip, they were there to make judgments.
Why did these
who was at fault?
Yeah.
And indeed, who is to be punished?
Everybody.
No, they didn't.
They said all three.
They didn't. They have joined, interestingly enough, they have joined WIPA and WICB. They say they acted in good faith. Now, the implication is that the players and the senior players did not act
by
in good
omission.
faith.
By
as
omission.
you would say, just like lying by omission, there were a lot of things that were not said in the report, which perhaps you're going to start hearing come out.
Yeah,
bit by bit.
but I'm saying that before we move to the realm of rumor and rumor mongering throughout the Caribbean, which we are very good at, by the way, I'm suggesting to you, Philip, that we are still in an extremely precarious position. But where do we go from here? I'm looking for some kind of answer.
I don't know. I think the dying question coming out of the thing is that the team that is going to be picked for the South African one days, which will presumably be the team that goes to the World Cup.
Yes.
It's going to be a very interesting team.
Yes.
Because I could see, I don't want to ask Mr.
You expect victimization?
If he has his report, if he has his writ.
Yeah, but I don't know. But Philip, are you suggesting that Measures Clive Lloyd and company have been advised not to pick certain individuals? Are you suggesting that?
I'm not suggesting that. I'm not.
Ralph, he seems to be.
But
I don't know.
I'm saying
I am hearing that they still plan to exclude some people or to demote some people. I'm hearing that, Philip.
But Ralph.
But a choice of demotion, can it be viewed as victimization if you choose a new captain? Or a new
in these peculiar circumstances.
Yes.
Look, how long ago was Bravo named captain?
Just over a year. Just over a year.
Yeah, the captain of your team must be the conduit, if you look at the report, the conduit to the board.
But Ralph is not looking at the report.
Well, he's saying, but I mean, okay, let me forget. We know the captain of the team must be the conduit to the board and whatnot, right? Tell me how this
I thought the management
I
thought the managers in India were the conduit, to use your term, towards the board. That the management there ought to have been telling the board. In other words, the management is the board overseas, the board's representatives, and they ought to have been telling the former board here what was transpiring in India. Something happened there. Is it that the management or some of those persons were sympathetic towards the players?
Well, I don't know. You simply want to tell us something, Ralph.
No, well, I can't give evidence. I was hoping to represent them.
But he can't give evidence and he can't disclose things told to him confidentially.
Certainly no. I would wish that you gentlemen would certainly take me into your confidence some more. But, gentlemen, we're going to take a break there for a moment. I know we want to carry on, but just for a moment, you're watching Massey United Insurance's Line and Line. When we come back, we're going to move away from the task force. We're going to talk about something else.
Across the Caribbean, more people are placing their trust in Massey United Insurance for the protection of the things that are important to them, their homes, businesses, and their prized possessions. That's because Massey United Insurance offers excellent general insurance coverage to help you manage whatever life sends your way. Our cadre of well-reputed agencies and trained insurance professionals are always ready to provide you with sound advice and prompt service. Choose the security and sound strength that is Massey United Insurance.
I live cool, I live fresh, I live life without the stress. Every day I feel my best, I live cool with Lime Call. Feel the energy, feel the breeze, I feel like doing as I please. Relaxation comes with these.
Limacol and feel the freshness of a breeze in a bottle. Limacol is trusted the world over and gives that easy, breezy Caribbean feel to all.
Every day I feel my best. I live cool with Limacol.
And welcome back to Massey United Insurance's Line and Lamp. Still in the studio, the two attorneys and yours truly, Andrew Seeley, Ralph Thorne and Philip Nichols. Philip, we're going to move away from the task force and for one moment talk a bit about the whole question of the bouncer situation and DRS. The test series is on in Australia and India. As we all know, the BCCI virtually run world cricket and they have made a determination on DRS. And we've had some issues and seen some issues which could have required DRS. And it has not been able to happen.
Well, Andrew, all I would say about that, everyone has talked about it. It's not a perfect world. Umpires are human. They're going to make errors. DRS, the evidence suggests that DRS does correct what would be considered howlers. And I really, and this is personally, have no sympathy for any Indian batsman who gets a tough one because of the nature of their board's action, which is ridiculous. But I feel even stronger on it. I think that the ICC is weak because I do not believe that FIFA could decide that they're introducing goal line technology and Brazil say they're not playing with it. You know, it just wouldn't happen. I mean, when FIFA makes a decision, whether right or wrong, and you don't like it, they tell you, well, until you comply, you don't play football.
Right. Ralph, your thoughts? They may not know, but you are, in fact, a cricketer yourself.
Yes, I am.
You can speak from that level.
We belong to the same club, Andrew.
That's right.
No, I agree with Philip entirely. I don't understand how you could have a regime of rules and members to that organization decide when they want to subscribe to the rules. I think Philip has summed it up quite well. I don't know if there's anything else to add. That ICC is allowing chaos to reign. It's a situation of almost anarchy that a country can decide what rules it wants. You can't have multi-tiered rules.
But the Indians counter with the comment that they provide 70% of revenue or income all for cricket. Your thoughts?
That's the point I began on. It seems that sometimes might can have its way simply because it is mighty, and that's not how democracies work. That's not how democratic organizations work.
And finally, Philip, your thoughts. We've had the spectacle where several players have been relieved of their IPL contracts. Most notably, the West Indies captain, Darren Sammy. But he and Kevin Peterson are perhaps the two most high-profile players. Your thoughts on the direction the IPL seems to be heading? Because to me, there seems to be a sinister plan afoot.
Andrew, I think that we would have to be here all next year to discuss the IPL. The IPL is an assiduous organization. It has one purpose, and that is to make money. And as people who are following the Indian courts, is to make money for a few. There are a few people, all of whom are inextricably bound up with Indian cricket, who are raking the profits from the IPL. And therefore, when these decisions are purely financial decisions. The same people that you have seen release are going to turn up either with another team or at a reduced pay packet back with their own team. To be honest, we are going into IPL, what it is, 7 or 8. Anybody can tell me what happened in IPL 2? I think all of us can remember what happened in the Thai test in 1960.
Yes, that's correct.
That's right.
But I doubt any of us will ever remember. You can't even remember last year.
Well, that might be a function of our age, though.
That could be true. That could be true. But no, the point is IPL is for entertainment. It's given the players a secure, and indirectly, I think, has fostered the ability to walk over a tour. I don't know what
but gentlemen, I don't think we have enough time to go back there, Ralph. I know you would love the opportunity.
Yes, I would.
but I don't think we have enough time to go back there. But let me just say thank you so much for coming to Massey United Insurance's
My pleasure,
Thanks,
Ralph
Andrew.
Thorne, QC, and Philip Nichols. Gentlemen, it has been an exciting show. Join us next week for more on Massey United Insurance's Line and Line.